In this video, I share the 7 strategies I used to overcome burnout after getting fired from my job in tech sales, so I could ultimately get back to performing at the level I knew I was capable of and launching my first successful business. So let's jump in and just explore what is burnout. So burnout's a symptom of excessive, prolonged stress, workload, and lack of balance. Super common in high achievers, because high achievers often have this mindset. They're so outcome oriented, so driven by success that becomes the main carrot for them. And they pretty much will do everything, even to the detriment of their mental and physical well-being in the process of getting there. But here's the thing that, I just want to point out. It's not about hard work. Hard work is not the problem. We're built to work hard. As a species, we're built to overcome immense struggle and challenges and hardship. But when the work that we're doing doesn't have deep meaning to us, but we still continue to show up and bust our ass regardless, it ends up burning us out. It's really about 2 parts. It's part health and part purpose and meaning. And burnout comes when we neglect both, and sometimes either or. Growing up, I played a high-level amateur sports, and I played baseball through college, and then I transitioned into sales. I became a #1 sales rep, hit President's Club, and I worked a ton. I put in a lot of work, but I never burnt out, because those things had a ton of meaning to me. Like, I loved what I was doing. Then at some point in the end of 2016, something really started to feel off. I noticed I wanted to work less. I wasn't as stoked to go to the gym or work on my health. I became more and more unfulfilled with my work, but I didn't really know why. I don't think at the time I described it that way. It just more so felt like something was off. But the one thing I started doing that really showed something was wrong was I began to develop a habit of escaping, right? And I would spend the weekends, specifically Saturdays, just with, drinking and drugs. And what ended up happening was I was no longer getting up early to exercise. Like I said, I was drinking 20 to 30 drinks every Saturday. I was eating more junk. I was staring at my phone more. I was waking up later, skipping workouts, falling asleep with the TV on or Netflix on in the background, going to sleep stoned every single night. Then I would wake up in the morning, like a few minutes before I had to go to work, and grab my phone before my eyes were even open. I'd check Slack, emails, I would scroll through social media, like immediately after I woke up. I began to hate Mondays because the idea of going into work and working on something I wasn't passionate about just drove me nuts. And I wasn't in a position anymore to feel, just good about my health, to feel strong, to have energy, to feel clarity. I became a pretty lazy salesperson. I couldn't really focus anymore. I certainly didn't have passion. I was often overwhelmed with just really minor tasks, and I just began to get way more stressed out. I noticed that I was missing the fire. Like, I didn't have the same love for what I was doing. And, my health had taken a backseat, right? Neglecting my health was really just a symptom of a much bigger issue that I learned in hindsight. Then I got fired. And ultimately that moment was my rock bottom. And I knew that how I had been living hadn't been working, clearly wasn't a representation of me or how I knew myself to act and behave my whole life. And so I knew I had to change. So now let's talk about how to beat burnout. And really quick, just to share, stress and overwhelm are part of something that I refer to as a survival state. And chronically living in this survival state is what leads to burnout. So really simply, what we need to think about doing is getting out of survival mode and into much more of a thriving mode. The key thing to remember is we can't be in both states at once. It's not possible. So what we really need to learn is to get into a thriving state consistently, to recognize the signs when we're in a survival state and get ourselves back into a state that is more aligned with thriving, and curate things like stillness, calm, centeredness, presence, and not the things like our minds racing, going all over the place. We feel like I got so much to do. There's the anxiety, that's the survival state. And so we do this by taking care of our physical health, mental health, and emotional well-being. And so today I'm just going to share some simple tactical things that you can actually do today. These are the 7 strategies that help me the most. Number one is meditation. I started meditating 4 years ago, really with the objective of just quieting my mind. I had a really nasty inner critic. I felt like I could never escape from it. Again, that's why I was leaning on things like, like alcohol and weed. The challenge that I faced with it was that what I thought meditation was, and this is why I struggled for years before that to ever get meditation to stick. I thought it meant that I got to sit down, be like a Zen monk and have zero thoughts, be totally at peace. And then I go on with my day and life is amazing. And I was supposed to do that from day one. And obviously that didn't happen. Like, there's no way that was going to happen. And so I struggled with it. What changed was when I learned that meditation isn't about changing thoughts or stopping thoughts. The purpose of it is to change our response to thoughts. It's simply to get us out of a state of clinginess and attaching to every thought that comes up and identifying with them and thinking we are our thoughts, and instead cultivating a space of awareness or just witnessing the thoughts as they come and go. And when we do that, we create a little bit of space between us and our thoughts. And it's in that space we get to choose our response. And when we cultivate enough of that space, we become non-reactive. We get out of this reactive survival state that we've become so used to if we're burning out. And it starts to create much more centeredness and calm because we realize and we learn and we practice, we don't need to be thrown off center with every thought that comes across our plate. And I love meditation because you can do it anywhere. Sometimes, if you're really big into working out or, cold exposure and cold plunges, you don't have access to those things. Meditation, you literally do it anywhere. You can do it on an airplane, you can do it on a bus, you can do it sitting on a meditation pillow. And it's always something that centers you and brings you back into the body, into the present moment, and out of this racing mind. So anytime I feel my nervous system ramping up, shifting into a survival state, I just sit 15 to 20 minutes. I've even done walking ones and just focus on recentering myself. Okay, I focus on my breath. I focus on becoming aware of different parts of my body. And the key is don't overthink it. Start with 5 minutes and simply focus on your breath. Focus on experiencing your breath. The air coming in and out of your nose, your diaphragm moving in and out, it's just an opportunity to tune into that. You can even count seconds while you breathe too. That may help you focus. Number 2 is protect your time and start to set strict boundaries, especially with work. Most people feel like if they set boundaries that they won't be as productive, they won't get everything done, or that others will actually get upset by their boundaries. I'm going to piss this person off if I say I don't take calls after 5. But in all my experience and working with all my clients, I've found the complete opposite to be true. When I started my business, I started working at all hours. It was very leaky. I would wake up some days at 4 a.m. and just start working. I would work into the evenings, and while it was fun a lot of the time, and if I was coming up to a launch, what I noticed is I had no boundaries, so it would just happen, and I would find myself working just to work, just to be busy. I was just doing busy work. I wasn't really getting anything done, and I noticed that it would just cause me to be more and more stressed out. I found myself then struggling to focus when it was time to actually focus. I wasn't giving my mind enough of a reprieve from really the mental load that I had put on it during the workday. And I found it really hard to disconnect when I wanted to disconnect. When I wanted to go out for a walk or go to the park or meet friends or go train jiu-jitsu, I found it even harder to disconnect when I didn't have those boundaries. When I started to set more clear, specific boundaries, I actually started to get more done. And I believe this is because the constraint forced me to be hyper-focused. I would say, hey, I only got 4 hours for this. You better get it done. Instead of just I got all day to do this. It was like, no, this is the time I've allocated for this. And after this, we're done. We're shutting off. It allowed my mind to actually shut off. Because I was strategic and planned ahead of time, again, just with simple boundaries, it almost allowed my mind to check out, in a good clock out for the day. So it was like, oh, you've got it. You're thinking about it. You're planning ahead. You know what you're doing. So it allowed me to truly relax and start to de-stress. And since burnout stems from this chronic stress and chronic feeling of overwhelm, these things are imperative. What helped most was for me to think about and keep reiterating, keep revisiting every single day what I wanted most. What I mean by that is what mattered most to me when I was trying to build my business and get back to performing at a high level and not being distracted and not feeling overwhelmed. What mattered most to me was, it was really simple. It was feeling sharp, clear, confident, creative, focused, strong, healthy. Those were the things I knew that if I was able to feel that consistently every day, they're going to allow me to perform my best, perform at a higher level. And I found that people not only respected my boundaries, but they were actually inspired to create their own. They'd be like, man, I love that you do that. That's actually really cool. I should try that with my, with my boss. Like just giving the permission that that's an option. And just remember, like work is always going to be there. There's always going to be more work to do, but your health and your time that you're able to spend with loved ones and on the things that you love won't. So just make sure, define a very clear cutoff time and protect what matters most to you. Your energy, time, attention, presence, health, loved ones. Third one is daily movement. So I don't work out every day. I don't train jujitsu every day, but I make sure I always move, even if it's just for 20 minutes. I love this idea. Stagnant water breeds disease, but constant movement keeps water vibrant, pure, and alive. And the same goes for our mind and body. The problem with burnout is we get stuck in our mind. And what movement does is it gets us out of our mind and into our body. My bonus tip for this is if you're going to the gym, if you're going on runs, again, because we want to cultivate more of a state of calm and presence, don't bring your phone with you. If you can be, good and disciplined with phone, you just want to listen to some music, pick the right kind of music that's going to cultivate that state. Awesome. But don't be on social media, scrolling between sets, answering texts or anything. Like really give yourself this time to get back into your body. Because if you're distracted by your phone, it's only going to prolong the burnout. And hey guys, really quick, I have a free perfect morning routine that I've dropped in the description below. If you just want some really simple, actionable steps and a habit tracker to just get back to having more energy, focus, and clarity every single day. Number 4 is protect your sleep. Sleep is one of the most overlooked and undervalued pieces that I see contributing to stress and really diminish mental well-being in men. A lot of guys use it as a badge of honor. Like, oh yeah, I only need to sleep 5-6 hours a day, or maybe you're just used to it and it just feels normal to you at this point. But that doesn't mean that it's what's best for you. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's what's best or what would help you optimize your well-being. There's a 2015 study from the Journal of Sleep Research that found that poor sleep quality was associated with decreased stress resilience, being able to bounce back from stress, and increase burnout. And sleep impacts us on just a crazy amount of levels, from our energy levels, cognitive function, like alertness, attention, concentration, reasoning, problem solving, creativity. It helps regulate our mood, keep our mood in check, boosts our immune system, balances hormones that control things like hunger, stress, and metabolism. And we struggle to get great sleep because, there's one thing that comes to mind for me, and it is most people, the first time their mind is able to take a deep breath from the day and settle, the first time is when it hits the pillow. We never give our mind a chance to chill and process the day. It's always jumping from one distraction to the next, or it just never settles and we're falling asleep stoned with the TV on, maybe buzzed from alcohol. We never actually give it that processing and relaxation time. And so here's how I think about it. I want you to think of one thing, and that's creating an off-ramp for the day. Just like you're getting off the freeway, you get on an off-ramp, you have plenty of time to slow down, you get to the light, you go home. You don't just jump off the freeway right to your driveway, right? There's no homes along the freeway. So here's just a couple tips for high quality sleep and creating that off-ramp. First thing is consistency is king with sleep. So I know this may sound difficult at first, but keeping a consistent sleep time 7 days a week. I was the typical 5 days a week, cool, weekends I'm staying up late. And just by wearing a Whoop and tracking my sleep over a few years, I saw how much that impacted my recovery going into the following week. So consistency. Second, thinking about the off-ramp. Start to reduce stimulation in your environment. Here's what I mean. Things like overhead lighting. Use a dimmer, turn them off, turn on. Things like lamp, floor lighting. Pay attention to sounds and volumes. I know some people maybe not blast music at night. Usually it's like the TV that is on really, really loud. And just be mindful of that. See if you can half the volume if you still want to watch TV. Okay. The other thing is physical activity, making sure that you're not exerting too much physical activity and ramping up your nervous system too close to bed. It'll make it hard to go to sleep. Caveat to that, I know for some people, that's the only time they're able to work out because of work schedule and kids and everything. And if that's the case, cool, not a big deal. Get your workout in. The other part of that is avoiding screens 30 minutes to 60 minutes before bed. This is one thing I have my clients do right out the gate, and it actually is one of the hardest things they report of being able to do. And that's because there's such an addiction and such a habitual nature, I guess, to just relying on that. So I recognize that that's really hard, but if that's something you can do, it has one of the biggest impacts on being able to get great sleep and fall asleep quickly. A couple other things are keep a dark room, use blackout shades, maybe an eye mask as well, and then keep the room cool. And then one of the biggest ones is avoid alcohol completely. Alcohol is known for crushing, killing any deep restorative sleep, like deep sleep cycles, REM sleep, both of which are incredibly imperative for our mental well-being, our energy, our focus, our mood the next day. And when there's alcohol in your system, the body simply cannot drop into those deep restorative states like you would without. It's also why, if you drink even a few drinks at night and you sleep 10 hours, you may wake up feeling like, holy shit, I feel like I got 3 hours of sleep. Number 5, spend more time in nature. This one's really straightforward. We forget sometimes that we're animals. It's in our DNA to feel a connection with Mother Earth. There's something primal and calming about a horizon, sunshine on your skin, getting your feet in the dirt, like being out just in nature, hearing animals and wind going through the trees and just being in it. When you're in that state, you're seeing a peak, you're seeing a valley, going on a big hike, like there's something so familiar with that. And we gotta stop ignoring that feeling. We're not meant to be indoors. We're not meant to be staring at screens 90% of our lives and sitting on our butts. And so anytime I feel burnout looming, stressed, anxious, my mind's racing, I get outside, I hit the trail, I go for a walk. When I was living in San Diego, I'd head to the coast every single day after work as my decompression time. Bonus tip here as well is similar to with the movement. No music, no headphones, just allow it to be you and your breath, and you will find a deeper calm come over you than you would if you had your phone on you, if you're listening to music, you're listening to a podcast. As much as I love self-development and learning and podcasts and all that stuff, you need to give yourself a chance to get out of this survival state. Number 6, high quality foods. So for a long time, I used foods to cope with stress. I would binge eat a lot. Anytime I would feel, off, maybe I would go for ice cream or eat a whole pizza or something. It was never healthy food. I was never binge eating blueberries and chicken breasts. And it was the junk that made me feel worse afterwards. And feeling worse afterwards would make me feel stressed. And it would keep the cycle going because then I would need to cope again. And so the only way was to really break out of that and focus on eating high quality foods because they contribute to better cognitive function, concentration, mood stability, physical recovery, better sleep. All of those things are crucial for beating burnout. And just a few food tips. I'm not crazy big on any one particular diet. I think when you look at the best diets and why they all work for a reason of eating the right amount of calories, eating whole foods, single ingredient foods, avoiding foods that aren't nutrient dense, that have a lot of calories, that are high in things like artificial sweeteners or sugars or preservatives or seed oils. So my tips are really straightforward. Stick to single ingredient, nutrient dense foods, whole foods. Get sufficient protein. And if you need a range, what that can look like is think about 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If you weigh 150 pounds, it's 150 grams of protein. Also getting healthy fats. Omega-3 or foods that are high in omega-3s like avocados, eggs, pasture-raised eggs if you can, olive oil, avocado oil. Okay, so just some ideas. Get some healthy fats in you. Fats are crucial for brain health, well-being, etc. A lot of people just kind of think fats are the enemy. Number 7 is implement 0 tech days. I found myself way too connected to the grid, yet disconnected with myself. And it created this restless, exhausted mind. I learned to completely turn off my inputs, slow down, reconnect with myself. Take a whole day and allow your mind to shut off, to process. to chill out. And the hard part with this and going no tech is the initial period. There will be most likely an initial period of discomfort. You may feel a little bit of anxiousness, especially if you've never done this before. Boredom, fidgeting, maybe pacing, but that's all okay. It's all normal. To me, that's just energy that's trying to move through your body, because on the other side of that, as long as you stay strong, present, and keep working on stillness and keep breathing, on the other side, you're going to experience presence. Okay, so try that. Full no tech days, do it on a Sunday or Saturday or whatever, and that's a game changer. Remember, our goal is to get you out of this state of survival and into this thriving state every day. Begin to get more clear on what you want most, and it's simple. Take action on that every single day. If this helped, comment, share with somebody who could benefit from this. And I'd love to hear from you. And last thing, make sure you grab my free morning routine guide below and get started on it tomorrow.